This is Dr. Paul Thomlinson from Compass Health Network, and this is another in a continuing series that aims to help us all get through the current crisis and its aftermath with grace and humanity. In a word, to further our mission to inspire hope and promote wellness. So as such, my goal is to identify issues or concerns that many of us are facing and bring some science to it, the behavioral sciences and evidence-based psychology in particular. This piece is called, What Are We Really Afraid Of, and What's the Antidote to Fear? There's no lack of fear these days, not that there ever was, but it really does seem to be everywhere we look now. There's one underlying, usually unspoken fear that I want to talk about here, and it's one that I've seen evidence of in several places. That is, the fear that the veneer of civility, the fabric of society, and the fundamental goodness of our fellow human beings is so thin that it will easily be unraveled by this crisis, and we'll descend into chaos, etc., etc. You've read the books, you've seen the movies, The Purge, Lord of the Flies, any number of other dystopian accounts of humanity. But I want to bring some science to bear on the fears of the thin veneer I mentioned, and in doing so, some real hope about our fellow human beings and their willingness and ability to rise to the challenge of a crisis, and to do so with empathy and compassion. In short, for those who believe our fellow humans are this close to turning our world into a dystopian nightmare at the first opportunity or crisis, the research says that the opposite's really true, that disasters and crises very often bring out the best in us. They activate our empathy and compassion, and they often allow us to do heroic things, even if the main thing we're being asked to do, staying home, feels like the opposite of heroism sometimes. There's a lot of support for the so-called empathy-altruism hypothesis from the great social psychologist Daniel Batson. Basically, this says that helping behavior will be initiated when we feel empathy for the person experiencing a crisis or the need for help. That is, when we identify with another person, feeling and understanding what they're experiencing, we are more likely to help and to feel good about helping. Empathy is great and necessary for civil society. But I think it's important to always be moving beyond empathy, which neuroscientifically is the state of being able to feel what another is feeling. If you just have empathy and sit around feeling what everyone else is feeling in a crisis, this can wear you out pretty quickly. So what's the next step? We have to move beyond empathy to compassion, to actually doing something, to be moved to act on behalf of someone else. Later, I'll close with some ideas about how to do that. All the major world religions converge on the importance of compassion, but the Dalai Lama may have said it best and most rightly when he said, "Love and compassion are not luxuries, but necessities for human survival." I know that may sound all kumbaya, soft and fuzzy, hippy-dippy, whatever, but it's actually rooted in science. Compassion is what will push us toward the cooperative behaviors that we need to solve the problems that face us. Just one example, a study at Yale University revealed that in a group performance setting, positive emotions like compassion and empathy improved cooperation, decreased conflict, and increased satisfaction with performance. So they worked better together, with less conflict, and felt better about what they'd done. Just like fear, these positive emotional states are contagious as well. And happily, there is strong scientific evidence that compassion is not only beneficial for the one on the receiving end, but for the one who gives it. Compassion for others improves your own mental and even physical wellness, reducing symptoms of anxiety and depression that many of us are feeling right now. Some believe that empathy is a trait that we're born with, and as such, is not likely to change much. Well, the research hasn't supported that view. Empathy can be learned. People can come to be more empathic towards other human beings over time. Stanford University psychology professor Dr. Jamil Zaki, in his great recent book, The War for Kindness, Building Empathy in a Fractured World, says we can grow our empathy on purpose, and that empathy is kind of like a muscle. Left unused, it atrophies. Put to work, it grows. So what would a workout plan for our empathy and compassion muscles look like right now? How about number one, checking on your elderly neighbors who may not be able to order food online, may not even know how to? How about checking on others in self-isolation? Send them funny memes or jokes to cheer them up. Call them, video chat them. Don't forget them. Make sure they feel less alone and have social support. Another study is important here. A study was done after Hurricane Sandy. 2 years after the superstorm, researchers came in and studied who bounced back, who was most resilient. And after controlling for a host of other factors, it was found that those who had a sense of trust in their neighbors, in their social network, and their friends, to be there for them and to be there with them. Those were the ones who bounced back. Those are the ones who weathered the storm, so to speak. Being compassionate now can and will have long-term effects on whether we ourselves and whether our friends and neighbors bounce back and recover well from this crisis. How about this? Disasters always impact economically disadvantaged people disproportionately, and COVID-19 is no exception. The crisis is crippling the economy in some sectors and has cost a lot of people their livelihoods. So if you're fortunate enough to still have income, be as generous as you can to those in need. Unprecedented times require unprecedented compassion. That's the antidote to the underlying fear of the thin veneer of our social fabric. And remember the why of all this. It's the why that gives us meaning and hope. I saw a hand-lettered sign posted yesterday that said it all. And then the whole world walked inside and shut their doors and said, "We will stop it all. Everything. To protect our weaker ones, our sicker ones, our older ones. And nothing in the history of humankind ever felt more like love than this."